here is when we go.
That's right.
We're never,
What?
never late.
Oh, okay.
No. Thank you.
Can we play the video now?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Oh,
Let me talk.
okay.
I told you I'm tired.
Are you done talking?
That's not supposed to matter, remember? You're just supposed to play the video.
Okay.
I'm talking to myself at this point. I'm the only one who knows what I'm talking about.
And with that, we'll be right back after this message.
Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Christ the royal master leads against the foe, forward into battle, see his banners go. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Oh, for a faith that will not shrink, though pressed by every foe, that will not tremble on the brink of any earthly woe, that will not murmur or complain beneath a chastening rod, but in the hour of grief or pain will lean upon its God. A faith that shines more bright and clear when tempests rage without, that when in danger knows no fear, in darkness feels no doubt. Lord, give us such a faith as this, and then whatever may come, we'll taste and hear the hallowed bliss of an eternal home. A charge to keep I have, a God to glorify, a never-dying soul to save, and fitted for the sky, to serve the present age, my calling to fulfill. Oh, may it all my powers engage to do my Master's will. Arm me with jealous care, as in thy sight to live, and O thy servant, Lord, prepare a strict account to give. Help me to watch and pray, and on thyself rely. Assured if I my trust betray, I shall forever die. Rise up, O men of God, have done with lesser things. Give heart and mind and soul and strength to serve the King of Kings. Rise up, O men of God, His kingdom tarries long. bring in the day of brotherhood and end the night of wrong. Rise up, O men of God, the church for you doth wait. Her strength unequal to her task, rise up and make her great. Lift high the cross of Christ, tread where his feet have trod. As brothers of the Son of Man, rise up, O men of God.
Good evening.
It's just fine. The saints of professionalism and shenanigans. Nope, never
Never
late.
late. I told you. Never late.
Marine and Reba.
Doesn't happen.
Reba says hi, brother Levi. Reba says hi, all y'all. Hi, sister Reba.
Hi, Arriba.
Reba greets Marine. Marine greets everybody. Marine greets Reba. And Reba greets us.
And hello, Dad.
So we are in chapter 22 tonight.
Good job.
What?
You did not start us off with we are in Acts. In an Acts study.
Yeah. We're in chapter 22 tonight. So, do you want the review or do you want me to review?
Yo, you probably ought to.
So in chapter 21, we see that Paul went back to Jerusalem and he got in troubles because seemingly he brought a Gentile into the temple, which would be a no-no. So the great mob is about to kill Paul, but the tribune saves him, and they have this discussion, an interesting discussion. The tribune mistakes Paul for some Egyptian who caused a riot, and he says, "No, I speak Greek." Can you speak Greek? And he says, "Yes, I speak Greek. I'm a Jew from Tarsus, a citizen of no mean city. I'm well known here. Let me speak to the people." So, Paul in the first section, 1 through 5, we looked at last time, does two things. He establishes rapport with the people, and first he gives credibility to his message. He speaks in Hebrew in verse 2, and he says, "I was brought under the feet of Gamaliel, a great teacher that they would all be familiar with and readily recognize." And then he brings up, builds a rapport with them and says, "Look, I used to be where you were. I persecuted the Jews. I persecuted the Christians. I didn't like this Christian movement at first either. But Okay, well, he's gonna come back. But Paul says, I didn't like this Christian movement either. In fact, before he uh, before he gives his conversion account, he says, look, I was going to Damascus to beat Christians, commit them to prison. I had authority from these guys. You can still ask. And now we come to verse 6 through 21, and Paul's going to recount his conversion. This is, by the way, the second out of 3 times he'll do this. Well, he does. He recounts it twice, but the accounts in here a total of 3 times. That's 9, Acts 22 here, and also in Acts 26. So that's all I got to say to bring us up to speed. So you want to read 6 through 21?
6 to 21?
Yes, please.
Sounds good. Now all of a sudden, I hear myself through you.
Interesting, I don't know.
I don't know either. Hello? Guess not. It stopped, so hey. Whatever. I was messing with my mic because she wasn't doing her job. Okay, so 6 to 21.
Yes, please.
Now it happened as I journeyed and came near Damascus at about noon. Suddenly, a great light from heaven shone around me, and I fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to me, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? So I answered, Who are you, Lord? And he said to me, I am Jesus of Nazareth, whom you are persecuting. And those who were with me indeed saw the light and were afraid, but they did not hear the voice of him who spoke to me. So I said, What shall I do, Lord? And the Lord said to me, Arise, and go to Damascus, and there you will be told all things which are appointed for you to do. And since I could not see for the glory of that light, being led by the hand of those who were with me, I came into Damascus. Then a certain Ananias, a devout man, according to the law, having a good testimony with all the Jews who dwelt there, came to me, and he stood and said to me, Brother Saul, receive your sight. And at that same hour I looked up at him. Then he said, The God of our fathers has chosen you, that you should know his will, and see the just one, and hear the voice of his mouth. For you will be his witness to all men of what you have seen and heard. And now, why are you waiting? Arise, and be baptized, and wash away your sins, calling on the name of the Lord. Now it happened, when I returned to Jerusalem, and was praying in the temple, that I was in a trance, and saw him saying to me, Make haste, and get out of Jerusalem quickly, for they will not receive your testimony concerning me. So I said, Lord, they know that in every synagogue I imprisoned and beat those who believed on you. And when the blood of your martyr, Stephen, was shed, I also was standing by, consenting to his death, and guarding the clothes of those who were killing him. Then he said to me, Depart for I will send you far from here to the Gentiles.
All right. So, does this sound familiar to us?
What's this?
This account 6 through 21.
It seems, you know, really close to what he said happened the first time.
Right in Acts chapter 9. There's a couple cool details that we have here that we don't get in chapter 9. For example, as I journeyed, I came to Damascus at about what time?
Noon.
Noon.
It was
Was
lunchtime.
That's right, it was about 12 p.m. And what's really cool about that is noon is when the heat of the day is that the sun's out. But then what's really cool is suddenly a great light from heaven shone around me. It's brighter than the noonday sun. That's cool.
That really puts it into comparison.
Yeah, it kind of highlights what happened. And that's a miracle. A bright light suddenly shone around me, and it's kind of mysterious because Paul has the conversation. He hears a voice saying, Saul's already persecute me, and Jesus says it's the Lord, just like in Acts 9. But it's curious to me. In verse 9, we see, and those who were with me indeed saw the light and were afraid, but they did not hear the voice of him who spoke. So picture this, those who are standing off are kind of seeing this light, and Paul's having this, what it sounds like from Acts 22, just reading this text, it sounds like Paul's having a one-sided conversation, right? If this is the only text that we had, we assume that they heard nothing, right? That's what it says. But if you go to Acts 26 for a minute, where Paul recounts this, and you look at verse 14, we see that they actually heard words but didn't understand the language. Um, uh, Acts 26 and verse 14 there. Let's see. Well, and when we all had fallen to the ground, which is interesting, we now know that those guys, those guys fell to the ground also. We don't have that in Acts 22, so everybody falls down. Saying to me in the what language?
The Hebrew.
Hebrew language. So this voice comes out, and Acts 9 says they heard the voice, uh, kind of piecing this all together. Here, try and stay with me. Let's see. So Acts 9:7, the men who journeyed with him stood speechless, hearing a voice. They heard something, but Acts 22 says they heard nothing. How is it that they heard something in Acts 9 and heard nothing in Acts 22? Well, in Acts 26, it was because uh, they were hearing the Hebrew language, and they didn't know the Hebrew language. Further, where is Paul coming from?
What?
Where is Paul coming from?
You know, I actually don't know. Not off the top of my head.
He is, well, he's got letters from, uh, letters to the brethren, uh, let's see, uh, as also the high priest bears me witness, and all the elders from whom I also received letters to the brethren, went to Damascus. Now, given that Paul has the letters, and the people uh, who, who are traveling with Paul do not understand the Hebrew language, uh, who can we assume is with Paul? He's got letters, he's got authority from the Roman government, the officials. What would be a safe assumption? Who are these guys?
Armed arrest.
Yeah, Roman soldiers.
It'd be Roman soldiers.
You know, what is he gonna do? He is going to Damascus to bind man and woman into prison. Now, if he walks up along with two other rando guys, I mean, he'll get laughed at. But if he's got Roman soldiers with him,
If he got
that
an
doesn't
escort,
make sense.
if he
Uh,
has an escort, that speaks volumes.
wait, Jerusalem. And so he was in Jerusalem, and he's going to Damascus with some Roman guards that cannot speak Hebrew. And so that's an interesting connection. I should have started in Acts 9. That would have made more sense. But that's an interesting connection. I never saw that before, but that was pointed out to me by Brother Levi in Acts chapter 9, and I just somehow remembered that. So that's cool to know.
I was gonna say, didn't we cover that in 9?
Yeah,
I remember covering his escort.
right. So he's got Roman escorts with him, and as Paul is telling his conversion off the top of the, well, before I go to verse 10, you got anything else in verse 9? Or through verse 9, 6 to 9 there?
Dad says, well, he had authority from the Pharisees, and they would have gotten him the authority necessary to go into another province to carry this out.
That's right.
And they would have supplied him with what he needed to travel.
Right.
You know, guards, because traveling alone is not a good idea, especially back in that day and age.
That's right.
I mean, yeah, it's just not a good idea, especially to someone you just gave a whole bunch of letters of authority to.
Yeah,
You're
that's
not
right.
gonna send him alone.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Anything else there, brother?
Well, I was um,
That's right.
Yeah, I was wondering. I was kicking that idea around in my head. Yeah.
Right, yeah, I think that's exactly right. They, they were not hearing. Of course, they heard a voice. They
Like
heard
right
something
here.
audible, but they didn't understand.
Right. They did not understand the voice of him who spoke to me.
Right,
I think that's where our catch is. They
right,
heard the words, but they didn't understand. And I
right.
noticed in 26, remember how we were just talking about how it was noon and all? I noticed in 26 it says,
It's so interesting to me. Heat of the day, and I think Luke is intentional in leaving this in there because it just shows how great this light is. I kind of imagine now this is creative license. Jesus appears right above the sun, and
right.
he's brighter than the sun.
It's like
That's
Dad says.
cool.
It's like Dad says, no wonder he was blinded. I mean, looking at the sun can cause eye damage, but then we have a light that's brighter than the sun here.
That's right. That's really cool.
And
So,
hello to Chuck from YouTube. He says, yo.
yo, too.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Thank you for joining us on our Acts study.
So if you look at verse 10, another interesting thing is, so I said, what shall I do? And the Lord said, arise and go into Damascus. Instead of killing Christians, you're going to be appointed, uh, there will be things appointed for you to do. Uh, uh, I do, Chuck. I have a notepad. Uh, so there's going to be some things, at least two things, that he's going to be appointed to do. And so Ananias comes to him 12, 13, 14. Really was interesting about Ananias. He is a,
Devout man.
yes, but what nationality is he? Jew or Gentile? If he is a devout man according to the law, and he is talking to who in this chapter? He's talking to Jews, right?
Yes.
In Acts 22, and so Paul is telling these Jews that, hey, this Jew Ananias comes, and he was a devout man according to the law, and he's got a good reputation as the Jews here. He comes to me and says to me, hey, Brother Saul, receive your sight, and at that same hour I looked up at him. Now it's interesting that he says I looked up at him, and the last thing uh, he saw was Jesus, and now he is seeing. Well, Jesus was above him, and so he is looking up at Ananias as well. So that's a cool connection, not trying to make too much of that. But here's another thing that connects to verse 10 and verse 14. Here's one of the things he's appointed to do from verse 10. The God of our fathers, uh, the Lord says you'll be told all the things which you are appointed to do. One of them is in verse 10, in verse 14, excuse me. The God of our fathers has chosen you that you should, one, know his will, two, see the just one. So Paul was chosen to know the will of God because it was divinely revealed to him. He was chosen to see Jesus. That's pretty cool. Being chosen ahead of time to see Jesus. And to hear the voice of his mouth. Uh, so that's cool. He's chosen to do three things in that verse. To know his will, know Jesus' will, to see Jesus, and to hear the voice of his mouth. That's kind of a sermon waiting to happen there. But I'm going to have to write that down. That's kind of what we are chosen to do, right? Know his will, see Jesus clearly through his word, and his sheep hear his voice and follow. So,
I was gonna mention that as well, Dad, when CJ finished.
well, he did then read his one, saying I don't suppose he spent all that time standing. Right,
See you,
but
Sam. You have a
uh,
good rest of your day, Sam. Be safe.
all right. So that's cool to me. Is there anything you want to point out before I move on here?
I was gonna mention with the where is that? Okay, and that and at that same hour I looked up at him. I was gonna mention. Well, I think one that Paul had spent that time praying, and Dad confirmed that. I think we found that in what chapter 9. He had
Right.
been spending a lot of that time praying and meditating, and so I kind of picture him sitting down, probably cross-legged or something. Just chilling. He can't see anything, so he can just sit there and listen. And all of a sudden, this guy walks up to you, and all you can hear, you're just like, "What?"
Right.
So I was just gonna say, I figure he was probably sitting down, whether it was on the floor or on the edge of a bed or whatever. He was probably sitting, and Ananias just walks up to him and starts talking to him. So naturally, he's going to look up towards the sound of the voice.
Right. So that's pretty cool. So he's appointed to know his will, to see the just one. He was appointed to see Jesus, and Paul makes a big deal about that in First Galatians chapter 1 and 1 Corinthians 15. How he's seen Jesus face to face. He's an eyewitness.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So, so he says, "For you will be his witness to all men of what you have seen and heard." And it's really cool if you think about what Paul is doing here, who is he talking to again?
Like, are you talking in the account or who he's recounting
No,
to?
who's he recounting to? Uh, Other people, right?
Other people.
So, it's really cool to see he's already been a witness of what he's seen and heard.
He's like,
Uh,
I'm doing what I was told to do.
that's right. So that's cool to see. And of course, we have the famous, and now why are you waiting? Arise, be baptized, wash away your sins, calling on the name of the Lord. And so it's always curious to me that the tone of Ananias is like, dude, get up. Why are you waiting? It's almost like uh, Saul knew what he was supposed to do before Ananias told him. I don't know. Uh, it just reads that way, you know. Why are you just standing there? Here's what I'm telling you to do. So that's very cool.
A lot of it is that urgency. This needs to happen now.
Right,
What are you waiting for? You just saw Jesus and you believe in him. All right. What are you waiting for? You should have done that.
right.
Paul, after a certain amount of time of hunting down Christians, you'd think he knew the procedure.
Yeah,
You would have picked up on what they did.
that's a good point.
I,
Granted, it would probably be hard for him to do it. One, I don't know if those guys, those Roman guards are with him to help him to a baptistry or what. Uh,
Dead quotes. It shall be told you what you are appointed to do.
that's right. It'll be told what you are.
He was told, arise.
That's right.
And
So,
you kept saying, that's cool. That's really cool.
uh,
So Dad goes, well, if it's that cold, CJ, put a sweater on. And to answer Chuck, no, I am currently not jotting down notes. I have this video. So I'll have that in my records. And I'm scrolling the Bible and trying to remember what I'm thinking at the same time.
right.
So I am not jotting down notes right now, no.
That's a good point too. We only have a small portion of their conversation. I'm sure there was more. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Most certainly.
Uh,
Um,
maybe this is like a conclusion to a whole Bible study. Like, come on now, let's go. Uh, but at any rate,
we're given what we need to know. And we know that.
that's right.
So we may only have bits and pieces of the actual conversation that entailed. It's just what we need to know and what Paul thought that the people he was talking to needed to know.
That's right.
This is what bears on the current topic I'm telling you about. The rest was side details.
Right.
I mean, when you recount a story of something you went through, you don't really always recount the whole conversation in the story or whatever,
Right.
Half that conversation had nothing to do with the events that took place.
So, it happened when I returned to Jerusalem and was praying in the temple that I was in a trance and saw him saying to me, "Make haste and get out of Jerusalem quickly, for they will not receive your testimony concerning me." So fresh, a new convert, he gets a message from the Lord saying, "Look, uh, I know you're preaching here, but in Acts 9 we learn that he gets up preaching, and God says, you better go. They're not going to receive you." And no. And so he goes. Um, it's interesting in X9. I don't think we have this conversation. This is another edition that we have. We just have him trying to. He leaves in X9 and he preaches Christ, and then he uh, goes. He escapes in 23, 24, and 25. And then it's almost like uh, he doesn't even leave. Uh, but we have this conversation with God that God's telling him, "Look, they're going to reject you. You can, you that's probably 23 through uh, 24 that he is recounting there, but just giving us more details. Like, I actually left Jerusalem for a bit, but then I went back. And it's interesting that him and God have this conversation. It seems to me that he's kind of still doubting. He still has his doubts, and the Lord has to encourage him and get him going. He says, "Get out of Jerusalem," verse 18, and he says, "Look, I don't know why you chose me. I'm the one that imprisoned people and beat those who believe on you. And when your martyr Stephen said I held their coats, I don't know if I can do this. Uh, Maybe I'm reading into this, but I think that's what Paul's doing. Well, he's just overwhelmed, and God says, "Look, get going. You're going to. Uh, I will send you far from here to the Gentiles." So God kind of reassures Paul, "No, Ananias told you that you're going to bear my name. It doesn't matter what you've done. You've been forgiven." Uh, the, uh, yeah, out to verse 16, "You've been forgiven. I'm going to use you." And so that's a good lesson for us, that when we feel discouraged, when God forgives us, He really forgives us and He expects us to work. I'm really not certain about the "dude, you know what you need to do" kind of attitude, but I'm certain about him being told everything he needed to do and read it more seriously immediately. That's
Most certainly.
right.
The "dude, you know what you need to do" might have been a little bit over the top, but it's an exaggeration.
Right.
I'm
Yeah,
most certain it was We need to get this done ASAP.
Right, that's right. Acts 9:29. Uh, and he spoke boldly in the name of the Lord Jesus and disputed against the Hellenists, but they attempted to kill him. Uh, Interesting. Okay, I did not know that.
That's where our link is. What? There's this 26 to 29 as him in Jerusalem.
Right. Right. So I think it's linked to that section that we talked about. Well, that really takes us through verse 21. And kind of some interesting things. I won't say cool things anymore because apparently I need a sweater to say that. But some interesting things in this section that I didn't pick up on until I was studying for this study. So,
You know, it's.
anything else you see there, Brody?
I was just gonna talk about how, you know, God tells Paul, make haste, get out of Jerusalem. It's not gonna work out. They're not gonna receive you. Just go on, get. You're wasting your time here. Idea. And Paul, his seems a little exasperated, you might say. You know. So I said, Lord, they know that in every synagogue I imprisoned and beat those who believed on you. He's like, I've whooped on, I've beat on, I've imprisoned all these Jews. Why did you choose me? I'm like, as far as Paul was concerned, I'm the worst candidate to be out here preaching this to them. I am the worst person. They're going to take my word for it. And God's like, well, don't worry about that. Don't worry about preaching to the Jews. I'm going to send you to the Gentiles. You know,
Right.
depart from here, for I'm going to send you far. Perhaps wanting to make amends as well.
You're talking about the attitude here in 20 and 21. I could see that.
I can see that as well. Exasperated, worried. You know, I'm sure it was a very mixed bucket of feelings. You know, man, I messed that one up. Wanting
Yeah.
to right the wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. How can I fix this? Like,
With a whole lot of confused, I bet.
how can you use me? This is a good example of how some Christians feel like when God's forgiven them, but they haven't quite forgiven themselves. Because we can imply, well we don't have to imply, Acts 9 tells us that he was baptized. Uh, we can safely uh, say that Paul was baptized. He was forgiven of these things. But he says, Lord, there's still a problem here. And if you're going to use me, I got to make amends to this. I mean, I'm the worst person you're going to use. You know? And so just because they've been baptized doesn't mean we understand God's will fully and perfectly. We'll still have questions, we'll still have doubts. Certainly the Apostle Paul did.
Right. And like here in 20, and when the blood of your martyr Stephen was shed, I was the one that consented it. He's feeling a lot of, man, I just persecuted God's people. I just put a kink in his plan. He's feeling a lot of that regret.
Yeah.
And he's, your your martyr, Stephen, I killed. That's
Right.
not a place where I personally, me, want to be. That's not where I want to stand ever.
Right.
It's just, I bet it was hard, you know. So in a lot of aspects, right here, it's just like poor Paul.
So let's just talk through this next section verse by verse here. So they listened to him until this word. What word? Until he mentions the Gentiles, of course. And then they raised their voices and said, "Hey, away with this fellow. He's up at the lair." Dramatic much. That'll show you the hostility that the Jews have to the Gentiles.
He just admitted to killing Stephen.
Well, I really think it's the last phrase that he said. Because everybody knew that Paul was a persecutor of the Jews already.
Right.
Everybody, everybody knew that he was there when Stephen was persecuted. So I really think they're reacting to verse 21.
Well, if we look right here, and they listened to him until this word. So he got this far. Depart, for I will send you far from the Gentiles. And they cut him off. They
Yeah,
cut him off.
the Gentiles.
No.
I mean, that's compare verse 23 to what he's already witnessed at the stoning of Stephen. That they cry out, tore their clothes, threw dust in the air, and boy, this would probably bring back some memories of what he just did to Stephen a couple years, uh, several years earlier. They stopped their ears, that, uh, and he had to witness people stopping their ears and shouting and running and picking up stones to stone Stephen. And so,
As we would say nowadays, they freaked out. This idea that he just proposed was preposterous to them.
that's
To the
right.
Gentiles, those are unclean, unfit. God doesn't want anything to do with Gentiles.
That's right.
Which makes you wonder where their mind have been when they're reading through the prophets. And I will make my word known to the
Yeah,
Gentiles. You know,
probably skipped over that part.
yeah, pulled a what was it? Great, of course, I just lost the name. That president that did that took the penknife and cut out the phrases in the Bible he didn't agree with.
Right.
Dad would tell me, but I don't know. I don't remember what his name is. Just Thomas Jefferson. There we are. I was
Yeah.
trying to say like Andrew Jackson. I was going for a J at the last name.
Right.
Yeah, Thomas Jefferson. He took a penknife and cut the words he didn't think belonged in there out.
That's right.
So, but Paul was cut off. He was not allowed to finish that.
That's right. The Gentiles? No. This
No.
man's not fit to live. They wanted to kill him. And they would have. I think verse 23 implies that they were getting ready to run at him. They're tearing off their clothes. They're throwing dust in the air. They're ready to bolt at this guy. And the commander saves Paul's behind you. He commanded him to be brought into the barracks, saves him from the crowd, and then that he should be examined under scourging. So they want to save him from the crowd and investigate more into Paul's story while he's being beaten. And Paul says, look, wait a minute. Is it lawful for you to scourge a man who is a Roman and uncondemned?
Herbsch.
What card does he play?
He pulls his Roman. Oh, what's it called?
Roman citizenship.
Citizenship.
Hey, you can't do this, guys.
I am a Roman.
It's I don't have anything specific, but there are some points where Paul allows himself to be beaten, and some points where he says, I'm a Roman citizen, stop, don't lay your hand on me. Well, what do you think? Why did he pull this card out, you think?
I was gonna pose the idea that sometimes the scenario doesn't play out right that you can tell anyone that you're a Roman. Right here he's in the presence of the centurion. He's who he needs to talk to. The guy with the scourges, I've heard that a million times. Everyone does. Oh no, I'm a Roman. No. So I kind of figure perhaps the time doesn't exactly align itself some days to put him with who he needs to tell.
Right. In some cases, Paul's not in a place where that really matters to them,
Or that doesn't bother them a bit.
Yeah, so he's really tactful and when he uses this, and so Lewis Dean hears this, he kind of says, back up, hey, be careful what you do, this guy is a Roman. And the commander says, so you're a Roman? He starts out the chapter being a supposed Egyptian. Well, starts out the end of the last chapter being the supposed Egyptian of this guy that let's see, the commander says you're the Egyptian. This commander is the one who says, are you not the Egyptian? And he says, no. And Paul didn't mention that he was a Roman citizen back in chapter 21. So this guy's thinking, wait, so this guy's not an Egyptian. He's speaking Hebrew. He's a Roman citizen.
Right.
Yeah. And he says, well, he's probably thinking, boy, how much did this guy pay for his citizenship?
This guy looks dirt broke.
Right. And Paul says, hey, I was born a citizen. I didn't pay for it. And so verse 29 says, then immediately those who were about to examine him withdrew from him.
Nope,
Why?
I was here. Bye.
No, he's a Roman citizen. We never heard him. That was one of the perks of being a Roman citizen. You could appeal to Caesar, and you're immune to the scourges, and so we can't do anything. And so uh, the commander was also afraid of him. I don't know what to do with him. And so the next day, because he wanted to know for certain why he was being accused, he really didn't know what he did wrong. There's nothing according to the law of Moses in his speech that the Jews would have said, ah, that's a contradiction. And there's really not anything at all that the Romans would be concerned about. So Paul wants to find out, what did I do? And so he is released from his bond, and he's before this council, and Paul gives the answer. Another speech to the council in chapter 23. And so that kind of takes us through 22 there. Do you got anything else before we
So
leave?
Dad said here, natural born had more rights than paid citizens, and non-citizens had no rights. So, as a natural, he was a natural. Uh, Paul, Paul really could have slam dunked the centurion and the scourgers, everyone in that whole area.
Right.
I think those scourgers, the people who were examining him, really left because they're like, nope, I was not here at all. No, I wasn't holding a whip aimed at a. No,
Right.
they weren't wasting time.
Yeah, that's right. Was freedom from punishment without trial. So now they know we gotta give him a fair trial now. And so,
The centurion knew royally he just got himself stuck in a big messy rope.
I tell you, Sarah, these are the worst chapter breaks. Because 20, really 21 to 23 is one big story. I mean, uh,
You could have cut it there at verse 30 and been, pretty okay. And the next day, you could have cut it there and been okay.
yeah, verse 30 would be a good. I was gonna stop there at verse 29 because of that, but I got to again. So now he is before the chief priest and the council, and and then I'll leave you with this 23 1a. Then Paul, looking earnestly at the council, said, I'll see you next week. Thank you again for the study.
The head says, severe punishment meted out against those who denied the rights. Yeah, that centurion knew he was in trouble.
That's right. We ran into the same issue in Philippi. That's right. And, and in that case, Paul kind of has magistrates come back in the morning with their tails tucked between their legs saying, "We're sorry."
It was a you can just take him outside the city, tell him to go away, please. No!
No.
They're gonna tie me up, they're gonna let me go in person.
Everybody. This is doing also. That, yeah. Paul says, I'm a Muslim too, and don't do that. You're not a. I am a Roman citizen. Almost not a Roman citizen. All right. Well, any other comments from the audience?
Not for me. Notice he commanded, but it wasn't carried out.
Right. That's right. Well, thank you all for being here. And here, yeah, we want to do three things. We want to glorify God, edify the saints, and answer any spiritual questions you may have. Before I give it to Hosea, I want to make an announcement. Tomorrow we will do lesson 7 of His Eternal Plan, and then Wednesday we will do lesson 8 instead of a study next week, because next week we will have live stream the classes of each week, so we will not have evening edification Sunday through Friday that week. So look forward to those classes. So tonight and tomorrow night is, ironically, we'll be in the book of Acts again. Conversions in the book of Acts. And then Wednesday night, we will be talking about the recipe for faithfulness. And then also, that study comes from Acts 2:42. So, all right, go ahead, O'Shea.
Thank you all for being here, for your comments, for your participation. It's good to see each of you here. Till we meet again, God bless you all. Love you. Bye bye.